This is TWiT.
Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. Globally respected companies and agencies turn to ACI Learning year after year to help them maintain their competitive edge. Supporting organizations across audit, IT, and cybersecurity readiness, ACI Learning keeps organizations at the top of their game. Visit acilearning.com and let ACI level up your IT team.
Joining us to kick things off is the Icon Factory's own Craig Hockenberry. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Hey, thanks, Mikah.
Yeah, it's good to get you on because we've got to talk about something, and that something is Twitter. Before we kind of break into what's going on right now, I was hoping that for folks who might not know, if you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your history with Twitter.
Yeah, my history with Twitter started 16 years ago. We made the first Twitter app. It was originally on Mac OS. Then we made the first Twitter app for iOS. Then we made the first Twitter app for the iPad. We've got a long history of making first things for Twitter. And yeah, I've been. There's a team behind the app now, but it was originally my creation.
Yeah, I read through your story over on furbo.org about the origin of TWiT and kind of learning about what was a shower thought, right? I mean, the app was a shower thought.
The Twitter just announced the API, and I was, we all started using it in the web browser, and I thought, well, this would be great as an app. So I was in the shower and actually had the name for Twitterific in the shower. Wow. And then sat down, started coming up with the API or using the API, and had a little prototype. And then our awesome designers at the company took that and made it look great. And, we had our first app. Yeah. And released that in early 2007.
Wow. So, and I mean, when you're saying this, I think that it may not even be driving home enough. When you say you created the first Twitter app for macOS and then later the first Twitter app for iPad, you mean that you predated Twitter's own apps for those clients too?
Yeah. In fact, that's how the word tweet came about, right? And the blue bird. We had this app, and we started using it, and I had just put a placeholder icon in the app. So one of our designers came up with this a guy by the name of David Lanham came up with the blue bird, and we put that in the app, and it was immediately it was a hit. Everybody loved that app icon. And at the same time, I was thinking about nouns and verbs for like menus and things like this. Post what, right? We had to, refresh something. And originally I called them twits before your show even existed. And one of the people that was using that early prototype was actually an engineer over at Twitter who said, you got this blue bird, why don't you call them tweets? And I was like, oh man, why didn't we think of that? And the rest is history, right? It's in the Oxford English Dictionary now. That was a pretty wild thing, right? The first time I heard somebody mention tweet on a newscast, it was like, okay, this is going to be around for a while.
And that's the thing is, your creation, your team's creation, is part of the bedrock of Twitter itself, and that's what makes what has happened just this week all the more glaring and all the more ridiculous. Can you tell us about the change that Twitter made this week that affected some third-party clients?
Yeah, basically we have a little handshake that it establishes a secure connection. We have some token that we provide to Twitter, and they check that token, make sure it's coming from us. And then they reply with another token that we look at and go, oh, yep, that's coming from Twitter. And then you've got your secure connection. they broke that process, right? We send our stuff to them. They say, nope, you don't have access, and we can't proceed from that point on. So the suspension has basically kneecapped us, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big questions that I had is, how did you even find out that this change had taken place? Did Twitter's developers reach out to you? Did you try accessing Twitter through, how did this happen for you?
Well, there's very few people left at Twitter in their developer relations group, number one. Number two, there was no attempt on their part to contact us, to give us any kind of a heads up that this was happening. It literally was somebody, I forget who it was, but one of our customers said, "Hey, I can't log in," and then that word got to one of our engineers, a colleague of mine, Sean Heber, and he says, "Can you go check the Twitter dashboard?" And I checked the dashboard, and I saw this big red banner that said, "Your app is suspended." And
wow,
that is all we know at this point. They have
even to this day.
"Oh, we're breaking the rules," but what rules? Right?
Yeah, because you've been doing it for this long.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Over 16 years, we've complied with a lot of rule changes that they've made. Everything from, how you display a tweet, which ways you authorize with the service. There have been numerous changes over the years that we comply with happily because we get value out of it. Our customers get value out of it. Twitter gets value out of it. Mm-hmm. So for them just to come and say, you're done, and not say why or give us, it's really kind of offensive that they didn't even bother to give us some warning, because it came as a surprise to us, came as a surprise, more importantly, to our customers, right? All they see is an error message. Their thing is not working. That generates a problem for us as far as customer support is concerned. It generates a problem with the, subscriptions. First thing Apple says when you want to retire a subscription is you need to give your customers a heads up. Well, guess what? We can't.
Because you yourself didn't even get a heads up about this. I mean, the fact that you had to find out through a customer, and then even still had to go in and look at it to finally see it on the dashboard with just, this is the day that it's taking place. I mean, why do you think Twitter made this change?
Well, let me just say that narcissistic only think about themselves.
Yeah. And by that, the Twitter app itself, the first party client that came, after, is the one that they are most focused on, it seems, at the moment. I mean, you are obviously a long-time developer of a third-party Twitter client, and I imagine have chatted with other folks who make third-party Twitter clients. When you look at it, is it a sizable portion of Twitter's user base that does not use the first-party app? I mean, is this really a money-making opportunity for Twitter by closing down these third-party? Because that's kind of the first responses that you see from folks who are trying to think of it from the business side, say, well, those third-party users weren't getting the experience that Twitter wanted, that had these ads in them, that had this, that, and the other, and so Twitter's trying to make itself more... But is that really as much of an impact as some argue? From
a number of people, it's probably a very small percentage, very small. From an influence point of view, it's probably much larger, right? A lot of the people that have been on service for a long time, who contribute a lot to the service, have been using it since the beginning and got used to using a third-party client, right? They rely on that third-party client. There are journalists, there are influential tech people, there are a lot of people that we've heard, especially, this situation has brought a lot of people out, and we've seen a huge outpouring of support for us because everybody looks at this and says the same thing. It's like, what the hell? right? This is not the way you do things with a web service.
Right.
This is, there's always a sunsetting phase. Everything, whether you're, I could spend hours going over examples, but we all know,
yeah,
right?
everybody,
you see those blog posts that say, "Oh, we're shutting down the service in April of 2023," right?
Right.
And if we'd got something like that from Twitter, we would have dealt with it, right? It's like the bottom line is it's their business; they can do what they want, right? But you don't treat other people like we're being treated now. Mm-hmm. It's really that simple.
Exactly. I mean, I imagine if a little, a young person down the road opened up a lemonade stand, you go to the lemonade stand and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to be here for the next 3 days, but then we're going away." even that little lemonade stand has a little bit of a heads up that Twitter hasn't provided for a huge number of people. And these businesses that have based a lot of their existence on this platform. It's awful. And that leads me to ask the question of, because I noticed that there were some third-party services that were more business oriented that did not receive this API cutoff. What are your thoughts there? Why do some clients still get to access the API, but these you and TweetBot and others are not able to access Twitter?
Honestly, I've got no idea. Mm-hmm. My only speculation at this point is that there's some unpublished usage level that we're going over, right? It's maybe if you've got, 100,000 tokens or 150,000 tokens. I don't know. Absolutely don't know. But I suspect that they have some sort of metric on their system somewhere where they said, "Oh, anything above this certain level, they're gone."
Yeah,
but that's purely speculation. Again, we know nothing. We've seen the same information that you've seen.
That's, I think, the most wild thing to me. You don't have any more information than anyone else. And that's why I have to ask you, as we kind of round things out, in your opinion, is there a future in which Twitter recovers from these platform changes, be it with its current leadership or even new leadership in place? Has Twitter done too much damage in the different choices that it's made thus far to recover from this?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And again, I look back at the early days of Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that established it early on were things like South by Southwest, WWDC, very developer-centric kind of things, right? People that are really into tech got into Twitter, right? And then it went more mainstream. Well, guess what's happened right now? That same group of people, in a matter of weeks, has moved over to things like Mastodon, microblog, some other service, right? They've abandoned Twitter. That does not bode well for the company.
Right. As you point out, the most influential users, the most active users, the people who like the platform actually are leaving it. Yeah,
they're bailing, right? And I'm not going to post on Twitter anymore. And people love some of the things I say, right? I've picked up, thousands and thousands of followers on Mastodon in the last, week. It's clear to me that people are moving away from Twitter. Mm-hmm. They're honestly, they're screwed in the long term in my mind. As I said at the end of the that blog post, they're going to be a $44 billion version of MySpace.
Ooh, if there was ever an insult that really drives it home, that's the one. I know we're running out of time. I did want to ask if you can tell us, is the Icon Factory working on a Mastodon client?
The answer to that is part of this surprise, right? We had no advance notice. We plan our project at a time. And honestly, we have a contractual commitment until the spring of this year. So we can't right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. The business works, we all schedule things out, right? You plan ahead. Twitter's not planning ahead.
No, it seems day to day, the decisions are being made for sure.
They are literally flying by the seat of their pants, and that doesn't get you very far.
Oof. Well, Craig Hockenberry, I want to thank you so much for carving out some time. I know things are very busy for you right now. Yeah. If folks want to follow you online over on Mastodon, where do they go to do that?
What's that now? I missed that last question.
Oh, did I cut out? If folks want to follow you online over on Mastodon, where should they go to do that?
I'm Hockenberry at mastodon.social.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we're Icon Factory is our blog there has a bunch of information about where we've all moved to. So, yeah, check out blog.iconfactory.com as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And obviously, I'm wishing you the best of luck with your projects and hope to see one from you for Mastodon in the future.
Yeah, we'll do something interesting for sure. It's in our blood.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.